Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, are you in for a treat today? We're already in March 2024, and I have another special guest on the show today. Today, I'm getting to talk to Staci Benavides. Staci is a director of human resources at DoubleTree by Hilton at the Abilene Downtown Convention Center. She's also a 2024 Texas SHRM District Director. She's certified with her PHR, her SHRM CP, and a whole lot more. Staci, so good to have you on the show. How you doing?
I'm great, Bruce. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We've served together Texas SHRM for a long time. We
For a while.
recently had our first meeting of 2024 in Frisco, Texas. What'd you think about that meeting?
It's always great when we come together. I always say Texas Sherm is my third place. I can thank Roseanne Garza for that term. She introduced me to that, but it really is, right? Like, because where else can a group of HR professionals come together and just share experiences and just lean on one another? And though these are always my favorite times, even if it's once a quarter, I very much appreciate the opportunity to get that.
Yeah, it was a fantastic meeting. Of course, you are a former president of Big Country Sherm. I got to meet
Mhm.
Livia Martinez. She was there. She's the current president, of course, past president in the past, Veronica Diaz. I've got the opportunity to come to the great city of Abilene and speak. It's fantastic. And so, yeah, Texas Sherm is amazing. And I have really enjoyed getting to know you and serving with you. And now I get to have you on the show. I know there is probably a lot of things I know about you, but there's probably some things I don't know about you. And I would love for you to
Awesome.
share the Staci Benavides story. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR and leadership?
So Stacy grew up in a small North Central Texas community, less than 500 people. So small
Mm.
town girl. There were 18 people in my graduating class. We had kindergarten through senior year of high school all in one building. When I say everybody knows everybody, you do know everybody. And then everybody knows what you do. So it's, you get accustomed to that type of life, but then it also gives you opportunities to do things that you probably wouldn't normally get to. So everything in high school that I could do, I did it from one act play to student council.
Mm.
I decided to run track and cross country one time, which is not pretty. Um, but I was real big into sports. Volleyball, basketball was the main things that I played, and I think that's kind of where I started. Really my leadership, just kind of just how I like to approach things in my leadership. So, did through that throughout my whole year, throughout all of high school. And then really probably my junior year, my life trajectory kind of changed a little bit. My father had passed away, and so I was older. I was 16 at the time, and
Mm.
just really was, in a small community like that. Like I said, everybody knows everybody, and so it really was a community support to kind of get us through that and to help us heal at that time. And so, but again, like I said, it kind of helped me, foster just kind of how I am. And I've always led and always just been Stacy, right? You joke sometimes that my one of my handles on social media is Stacy all the time, which is true. It's just stay I am me. If I am not my authentic self, then I am not really serving the person or helping people. And so that's just kind of how I like to lead, is just being authentic. And then, so high school, right, that led me to where I wanted to go to college. And I had come to Abilene and Hardin Simmons University
Mm.
for things, and decided that this was a small, home field type of collegiate opportunity that I wanted. I knew that if I went to somewhere larger, that I would not be successful, that I would just be a fish out of water coming from a class of 18, right? Like that's true. So I was intentional about not going somewhere that I was just going to get lost in. So came to Hardin Simmons, got really involved in the School of Business. I had some really great professors that, really became just good people that I learned from, got to be a part of really their family lives, and that was important to me as I moved away from home. Like I wanted to be true. I wanted to be true to myself, and so college, right? College happened. Got my master's degree from Hardin Simmons as
Mm.
well, and then moved around and came back to Abilene in 2011. So along the way, I kind of figured out that HR was what I wanted to do. I also figured out that, I do like volunteering and serving others. So in this long trajectory of almost 20 years of being in HR, that's kind of where I found myself.
Okay, so there's a lot here, a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I know there's.
I love it. I love it. I grew up in a small town too, but when you said a class of 18, I'm like, no, no, no. My small town was like a little bit less than 100. That
Oh.
is really small. But you said something. You talked about the importance of being authentic. You need to be your authentic self. I'm curious, like where did that come from? And I'll tell you, I want to talk about that for a second because there's listeners here that they want to be more authentic and they're just trying to figure out how can I do that? Because we're today in social media and everything else, everybody's talking about, the power of authenticity. But
Hmm.
it's not as easy for some people. Talk about that. Like, where did that come from?
Really for it's the awareness, I think is what it starts out, right? Like if you are aware that you are presenting your best self, then that you are going to be intentional with doing that as you continue on, right? No matter who you meet, no matter what you're doing. If that is important to you, you will focus on that. But I think a lot of it is that some people are just not aware of how they are presenting themselves, how they are coming across.
I talk to so many different people that say, "Hey, I'm gonna stand behind the curtain here. I don't want people to really know who I am." And it's like when they share their story, it's so inspiring. And I'm like on this mission of like helping people like, see the possibilities of when you share your story, what that does. And what it does is it helps you connect,
Hmm.
right? Not just with other people, but just to what you do, your calling and the way you approach things every day. And so I love all that. Okay, so you went and got your master's. I love that, by the
I
way.
did.
Did you go get your master's in HR? How did you get introduced to like HR?
So funny story. Great. I'm glad you asked that. So I got my bachelor's degree, right? It was in business administration. Really didn't know kind of what area in business I wanted to go into. My mother is a previous CFO, so she's got the finance side of the brain, whereas I got more of the people side. And so we always joke with one another about all of that. But like I knew I wanted to do something in business, right? And so got my bachelor's degree, worked for about 6 months for a nurse recruiting company that went belly up. And I didn't really know what else to do. So I was like, you know what? I still know all those professors, so I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. And so honestly, to share a little secret, like I enjoyed it because it was like just one continuous long degree that I had because I still had the same professors and all of that. But it was during that time I was working full time and then taking classes at night. I had an adjunct professor that was his first teaching opportunity. He was
Hmm.
coming from the banking sector, and doing business in HR for a bank. And we were talking about org theory. Had our books open and we were going through that. And there was just some story, and I honestly can't remember what the story is now, but there was something that he said that kind of had the light bulb. And I was like, ooh, this HR side, the people part of it sounds okay. I don't have to deal with numbers or anything like that. I'll do people. That seems easy enough. And so I was like, you know what, let's explore HR. And so looked for, opportunities, that generalist type position, kind of entry level. Found an opportunity actually in Lubbock for a home health agency, and a director of HR there that just kind of took me under her wing and really guided me and showed me, the beginnings of HR, and the acronyms and the terms and all those, things that as a young HR person, it's valuable to know. So that's pretty much how HR for Stacy started, is that, I didn't want to do numbers. I didn't want to do the accounting finance side. I was like, I like people. So let's stick with that. So here I am.
I love that, Stacy, all the time. That's fantastic. Okay, so and it's nice to have like well, I always like to talk about mentors. You've talked about some
Hmm.
professors. You talked about your mom being a CFO. I
Hmm.
mean, I had my brother who was a business leader, and so I kind of followed him. Said, "Hey, I'm going to get my business degree. I'm not sure where I'm going." I ended up in relocation, and but it's a matter of I had different people guiding me along the way.
Hmm.
Did you have a couple of other mentors that have helped you get to where you are today? And anything in particular that that made him a great mentor?
I think, anybody could be a mentor if you are willing to listen. I think
Hmm.
sometimes when we don't listen, when we're just shut down and we're stuck in our head, and we think we've got it figured out, and you never know that there will be that somebody that just walks along and just says that little nugget and gets you out of what you're thinking about. So, I mean, yes, there's mentors that are, more knowledgeable in HR or business, or, whatever the case may be. But I think just in general, like, everybody that you meet has something that they can help you with.
I love all of that.
Everybody's a mentor to me. I don't pretend to know everything, progress over perfection. And so I will gladly stand up and say, I don't know something, help me. And, I am humble enough to ask for that help.
Progress over perfection. That is fantastic. And by the way, that's not just like we talked about being authentic. That's not easy sometimes to say, "Hey, I
It's
don't know."
Yep.
Right? Because a lot of times we're in the workplace and we're doing great work and, we're looking for that next promotion or we're just looking to look good in the workplace. And sometimes we don't raise our hand. We're just like, oh, I'll just figure it out. And
Hmm.
but sometimes it's very helpful to do that. I'm curious. And by the way, you said you need to be willing to listen. You need to be willing to listen. That's a big point. I think that great leaders that I've known are great listeners. Are
Hmm.
great listeners. So you feel like that's a skill? Can people learn to be a great listener? What are your thoughts around that?
I think you can. It takes some practice and some work at it, right? I will 100% admit that I'm stubborn and don't want to listen to
Mm,
things when I'm in that mood, or whatever. But looking back at those examples of when I've been in that mood, and then how I got out of it, was if I would just listened and paid attention to what was being said to me, I could have moved past all this unnecessary, you know, confusion or whatever it is that I'm dealing with that time. If I would just been open to listen, I could have moved past it quicker and moved on to
mm,
something else, if that makes sense.
it
I'm very
does.
much a proponent of evaluating that situation, and is this really what I use the term, is this really the hill I want to die on today? Is this
Mm.
really that important, and that it's a priority than all this other stuff that I have already set for myself? So, and being in HR, right, that's a constant struggle, because you've got employees, you've got managers, you've got people coming to you all day, every day, fighting for that. And, for me as an HR person, I set the ground rules early of, this is how I am, this is my priority. I will try to help you the best I can. But, some people like it, some people don't. But I think but like you said, it's about that
Mm.
connection. And that's how I approach things now. Before, I would say, but previous, back in my career, I didn't really make that connection. But now, as I've gotten older, I've become a mom. I've done a lot more volunteer opportunities and met great people that have shown me the importance of that connection and being real. So
I feel like whenever I look at great leaders in my career, that's the one thing that I see in all of them is they're great listeners. Like when I see someone that's a great listener, all of a sudden it's almost like inspiring is probably not the word, but I'm attracted to that because I'm like, they value what I'm saying. They're really listening to what I'm saying. So I know I'm going to get some good advice. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
And it's so funny because, yes, again, being in HR, I'm going to try to solve it. I'm going to try to come up with
Mm.
a solution for you. And I have learned, and you can ask my husband this too, that, sometimes that other person does not want me to solve it. They don't need me to come
Yeah.
up with a solution. Again, they just need me to listen. They just need me to be an ear, and which is, again, it's a learned trait, right? I'm having to learn just to sit there and be quiet and listen to them.
I heard what somebody say one time, Stacy. They said that sometimes people just want to be heard, sometimes they want to be helped, and sometimes they want to be hugged. So a lot
Hmm.
of times when you're listening, to be able to say, "Hey, are you wanting me to help you, hear you, listen to you, or hug you?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I tried that out on my wife the other day, and she said, "Just listen, just listen."
Just listen.
That's fantastic. Oh, it's so good. Hey, well, I always like to talk about finding your lane. I wrote the book Find Your Lane. So I'm always curious about like when was there a moment that you found your lane? I mean, here you are, like you said, hey, I had a job, I went back, I got my master's, and I've navigated my career into leadership in HR. Here you are today. Was there a moment you can look back and say, hey, there was this one moment where I said, I love what I do, or were there moments?
There's been moments, right?
Mm,
I mean, doing this type of work for however long, right, will have its moments, good,
mhm,
bad, and different. I think probably, it was kind of the first position I had. It was at a hospital, and that was my first job when I was 16, was, a dishwasher in a hospital. So I understand the setting, right? But really the first HR position on my own
mhm.
was at a hospital. And I think that was when I first kind of said, you know what, I think I got this, I can do this. But it was that, and it's been like a little nuggets since then, right? There's also been little nuggets of what have I gotten myself into and why am I still here, right? As any, I think, HR professional would say.
And I think we all assess that during the course of our career, like, hey, is this what I want to do? Do I want to keep doing this? I think I heard Dale Carnegie one time talk about every year you should ask yourself, what should I start doing, stop doing, and continue doing? And so we're
Hmm.
always, evaluating that. Hey, well, let's talk leadership here. I mean, here you are, you're serving in a leadership role, you're a director. You also serve in a leadership role for Texas SHRM. If someone says, hey, Stacy, what's leadership to you? How would you respond to that?
Kind of what we've already been discussing is just being that connection,
Mm,
being someone that is the listener, that is the ear, but then also that can help you find that purpose, like it says
mm.
on your back wall, is finding what it is that you want to do. So if imparting my knowledge and wisdom and experiences on you can help you find that, then that's what leadership means to me. It's making that connection, being that person that is authentic and real with you to help you be as successful as you want.
I love that. I've interviewed almost 200 guests on the show over the last 5 years, and everybody has like a little different take. It's like this common thread. Everything's woven together. But I love how you talk about listening. That's so important. And then, yes, on the back of my wall, my book just came out March 1st. Drive with Purpose. I'm super excited about that. And so thanks
Super
for
excited.
teeing that up. I'm so excited about that. Well, let me ask you this. I'm curious. So you are, so one of your roles is listening. I mean, you're a director at your company. What kind of, I mean, I'm curious, like what kind of challenges are you seeing today in your space, and just in general? Is there anything different today than there was when you first started?
So professionally, I am in a new industry. I am
Mm,
new to hospitality.
okay.
Opened a new hotel end of last summer. And so, before that, healthcare technology, that's been my previous HR background, but hospitality is really the I think the epitome of HR, because it's all about the service.
Mm,
And without, the humans, you can't provide that service. And so it's a mixture of that. I think, for me, pres- professionally over the last year, I have been learning a lot. And so, but from a volunteer standpoint, it really is pretty much the same as just that listening part and hearing what the challenges are. It's funny, I've been doing Texas SHRM for 6, 7 years, something like that. And just listening to, our chapter leaders, our volunteer leaders who have such a passion for their communities and for their profession, and this same concerns and challenges that they have are the same ones I had,
mm,
10, 15 years ago. So, it's fun to get to help in this process and to learn and to grow with everybody as well.
I
I think
love that.
that's been what, over the last year or so, I've really kind of been focused on is how to help myself so I can help everybody else.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You got to help yourself first. It's like that. What's that story? You got to put on your oxygen mask before you
Yes.
help someone else, so
Mhm.
you can be prepared to do that. I love that. I want to dive into. So one thing I've noticed is when I'm interviewing all of these high performers, I call you a high performer. I've been watching you for a long time. I admire you, Stacy, all the time. But what I thing I notice is that all industries you can, are you can, your role, you just need to learn what the industry is doing, learn the company, learn the industry, learn those things. But as far as the role itself, it's basically the same wherever you go. You're leading people,
Mhm.
you're connecting with people, you're listening to people, you're developing people all the way through. One of the things I want to ask you though is, because I know, because I serve with you, you work full time, you have a family, you work full time, but yet you also invest time in serving in your community. You're a former president of Big Country Sherm. I want to say 2015 or 16, somewhere
A
around
while
there.
ago.
And then you served Texas Sherm, and then you decided to pause
Mhm.
for a year. I think it was a year. It might have been two. I can't remember.
Yep.
You paused, but then you came back and you just like got right back into it. And I thought that was very interesting because a lot of people that push pause, they're like, okay, well, I'm kind of done. I'm worn out. But you paused because of your family, and
Mhm.
so and then you got right back into it. Talk about the importance of volunteering and what's that done for you in your career.
I mean, really, it goes back to the network, and that's really what I have tried to impart, especially with, students, young professionals, emerging professionals, that, the importance of growing your network and really sustaining that network.
Mm,
And so, but I knew, 4-ish years ago that I needed to pause. I
mhm,
had some changes in my professional life, and so I took a break from working, and that's when, I had to focus on my family. And so, but even during that time, I knew that, this group of professionals that I have made such a connection with, that I was going to get back into this group some way, shape, or form. Like I needed that in my life. And so, I think it's just because of that volunteer spirit, servant leadership spirit, whatever you want to call that, that I've had, really throughout my entire life. I remember when I was probably in junior high, I'd served on the search committee for my church for a pastor. And I was like, I started thinking about it. I was like, that was probably like my first real HR recruiting job, right? Is that. But you know, if you have that type of leadership, in heart of volunteering and serving, like like I said, you do have to take care of yourself, but that's never going to go away. You're going to continue to, that passion's still going to be there. And so that for me, that was what's happened, right? I got my kid, my family all situated, ready to go. And I wanted to continue to give back. And so that's why I jumped back into Texas SHRM as eagerly as I did. And they let
And
me stay.
you were on a search committee as a teenager. Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
That is fantastic. I love
Isn't
that.
that funny? Yeah.
Oh, that is a great story. Oh my
With
gosh,
all
that's
the other with all the other elders of the church, and my
that
dad
is
was there, and yeah.
yeah, I can see it now. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so talk about okay, so what is it like? What has it done for you though? What is volunteering done for you? Because you invest a lot of time in that. And the reason why I'm going there is because there's some people listening right now, and they're like, you know what, I want to get involved, I just don't have time,
Hmm.
or I just don't know what's involved there. What's it done for you personally to be a volunteer?
I mean, personally, it's the connection of in that mentorship, right? We talked
Yeah.
about that. You talked about Livia and Veronica. Veronica was one of the first HR people that I met when I moved back to Abilene.
Hmm.
And we were serving on another nonprofit board. And so, it's kind of funny how all of, like I said, we know each
Hmm.
other. I was the one that introduced her to Big Country Sherm. Same thing with Livia. And I think again, it goes back to having that passion for leadership, for serving, right? If
Yeah.
I didn't think it was important to have a group of HR professionals together, because then I wouldn't be involved in the board or at the local level or state level. But because I think, I know that there is importance in having that group to, connected. I want to find other people that can do that as well. And like you said, it's about, there is a little bit of a time commitment,
Hmm.
but if you're passionate about it and you like to enjoy it and have fun, like, the time commitment's not going to be that big of a challenge. I think it's just, it's about finding others that can help you, because you can't do it all on your own. We all know that.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I've suckered all these other people in to help me, because they see the passion as well that I have. And so hopefully I can emulate that and talk about the importance and get them to understand the importance of serving as well.
Yeah, I love that. Whenever you talk about that, I think about networking, not just externally, but internally too. And something
Mhm.
you said that really kind of I started thinking about was you get to see what good looks like and when you get to see what not good looks like. And so internally, you can, network and of course meet different people. But then when you go externally and you get involved in another organization, you can really see how people do different things, how they approach things. So, you get to see consistency and not consistency, and there's just so much upside to that. And so whenever I talk about and you mentioned Drive with Purpose, my new book, I talk about really going beyond your job and looking for ways to help other people and creating significance, because that's when you really get meaning
Mhm.
in your job. Hey, somebody like listening right now, and they're like, so Stacy's a Texas SHRM district director. What does that mean? What do you do?
District director is kind of, it's a just another resource, another level between a chapter leadership and the state level. Again, it's just a resource to help our chapter leaders be successful as an affiliate of SHRM. And so if that means, providing specific resources for their financials, if it means membership assistance, if it means promoting great speakers that come and do their programs, whatever that means to help promote and drive the mission of their individual chapter. That's what I'm here for. So West District 4 is our district now, our Westerners, as we like to say. So right now I've got Big Country SHRM in Abilene, and then
Mm.
Mid-Tex in Brownwood, Texas, and then Permian Basin, which is in Midland, Odessa, El Paso SHRM in El Paso, Texas, Panhandle SHRM in Amarillo, and Lubbock SHRM.
Mm.
So there are 6 chapters that I get to kind of guide throughout this year, and it's good. It's like I said earlier, it's a good mix of leadership that some are brand new to leadership and to the chapter, and then there's some that have been doing this for a while, which I prefer that, right? I think, like you said, it's a good mix of, you know, how, what that leadership, what they've done previously and what has worked, and they can give best practices to the new ones that are coming in, and then vice versa. The new leaders can share, some new life into what, can come up with things. So it's really exciting. We are very excited this year. Got some good things, good collaboration. Our chapters are kind of spread out geographically. There's some distance between all of us. So we're looking for some virtual programming and offerings this year that we could come as together as a region and geography on a map, and just support each other in these areas, right? I think that's important. That's kind of why I have a passion for the smaller chapters, is because
Mm.
I know that, what it takes to one, run a chapter, but then being an HR of, professional in these smaller communities, things like that. And like I said, it's about the connection and it's about the network. So that's what I choose to focus on for that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's like you were a mentor because you've served in that president role for a chapter, Big Country, and now you get to help mentor and really be a resource, like you said, for others. So if you're listening and you want to get involved in Texas SHRM, it's really about getting involved in your local SHRM chapter. Staci can help you with that. I'll put all the information in the show notes. You can certainly connect with her. Hey, let me ask you this. You seem like a pretty driven person. What drives you?
Again, just being my real self, right? I don't
Mm.
I don't want to come across as Stacy was anything other than Stacy. And that's pretty much it. So, and if I am not that person that could help you, then I will try to find it for you. But I don't
Mhm.
want, that's what drives me. That's just being that resource, being that helpful, person that they need. If it's to have a good laugh with, then I will be there too. Just that. That's pretty much what drives me. And then, seeing my family and my friends smile.
I love that. Hey,
Pretty
Will, I,
easy.
I, I mentioned earlier when I wrote the book, Drive with Purpose, I talk about, going beyond success and really having, significance in your career. If someone said, "Hey, Stacy, what's significance to you and having that in your career?" How would you respond to that? What's that like?
Meaningful, right? That
Mm-hmm.
word is what I gravitate more than significance. Like that word to
Mm.
me
Mm.
resonates different than what significance would how that comes across. And I think, like you said, it's right. It's finding that value, that
Mm.
meaning, right? Kind of like you said, I wouldn't be involved in what I've been involved in if I didn't find meaning in that. I wouldn't come
Mm.
back to Texas SHRM. I wouldn't continue to do the things that I've done professionally in this, community, if I didn't find meaning to it. So to me, that is what significance means.
I love that. I love all of this. This has been so much fun. I want to ask you, for those listening, you mentioned earlier you need to, and I want to ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll get into it's time to accelerate. But you mentioned that, hey, I need to help myself first.
Mhm.
And so for those listening, if they said, "Hey, okay, I get that. I wonder how Stacy helps herself first." What are maybe a couple of things that you do that you feel like helps you move forward by helping yourself to help others?
I am all about self-care.
Mm.
And so whatever that looks like for you, it's different for everybody. I don't like to sit still in my desk or my office, mainly because I don't have any
Do
windows
you have a
and I like
stand-up
to see
desk?
I don't yet, and I need to get one. So I do take a
Yeah.
lap around, and mainly because, and I've always done that, mainly because if I don't, HR is usually the last to know things
Mm.
going on. And
Hmm.
so if I don't get out at least once a day and walk around and check in on everybody, just that little things. I am all about massage therapy. I'm all about all of the womanly self-care things that you could do. But I think it's just that, and then just really recognizing that, I need to take a break.
Mm.
That's really what I have noticed for myself, probably in the last several years, is that, I am about to that point where I need to take a break because I'm not going to be helpful to anybody else. And it's funny, it comes just about the time of our quarterly Texas SHRM meetings too. So it's just ironic that that happens. But I do believe in that. And so whatever that looks like for every
Mm.
individual, right? And I am very blessed and fortunate. I work for a company that values that also, and has resources in, you know, just all the things that could be available for employees and team members to support and be their best self.
I'm
And so I
glad.
think that's important for companies to really focus on that and invest in that
Yeah.
also.
I'm glad you shared that because I think a lot of times we feel like we need to keep the gas pressed down and hey, sometimes you need to just like hit the brake and pull over and take a rest. I think over the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've learned to give myself grace whenever I don't get
Hmm.
something done. I just say, you know what? It's okay. When the season's right, I'll get back to it or whatever the case may be. So I'm glad you shared that. I know there's some people listening right now that are like, oh man, I needed to hear that because I feel like I need to do all this stuff. And really, you need to take care of yourself first. And that's been so good. Okay. Last question before we go to it's time to accelerate. You've given incredible advice on the show, but have you ever been given any advice? Maybe it was early on, maybe it was mid-career. It was just so good. You just find yourself sharing that with others.
Really, it's to be your authentic self,
Mm.
to be the true person that you are meant to be. And I've heard that from, so many people, but, and everybody has a book or podcast on it, right? But I think until you finally like put it into practice, like it's not going to resonate with you. And so to me, that's what I've always operated
Mm.
under. That's what I've always done. And so
I love that. That's great advice from Stacy all the time. Oh my
you're
gosh. I
welcome.
told you the time was going to fly. We're going to
It
switch over
does.
to it's time to accelerate. And I'm going to ask you a few fun questions. First and foremost, what are you looking forward to in 2024? Here we are, almost the end of
Oh my
Q1.
gosh. I know. So 2024, so it's actually my 10-year wedding anniversary with my husband. So I am looking and planning a very fabulous trip with him. Because again, you need to just pause and
Right.
go away.
I love that.
Um, Really just, I'm coming up on a year. It'll be a year this summer for my new property, and so, just really sinking my teeth into that. The hospitality industry has really changed since COVID, and so I'm learning. I love it though. I
Mm,
think this is where I'm meant to be. I do get asked that daily, like, "Are you where you're supposed to be?" I was like, "Yes, I am where I'm
that's
supposed to
fantastic.
be."
I
So.
love that. I wrote a chapter in my last book, Great Leaders or Grateful Leaders. What are you grateful for?
I am really grateful for just the connections I get to meet and establish every single day. Like I talked
Mm,
about, I think everybody is a mentor.
mm,
And so whether that is the teacher at my son's school, whether that is um a guest that comes into my hotel, like that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for those connections and getting the opportunity to talk with everybody.
I love that. How you're just open every time you have a connection, you're just opening to learning from them. That's so good. Hey, so other than work in Texas SHRM, or maybe that is part of it, what energizes you?
Working in Texas SHRM. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I
It's,
love that.
it's like I said, especially with Texas SHRM, I am so pumped about this year
Yeah.
and just the focus that we have for each other and, you know, went to past couple of months have been to SHRM, the volunteer leader business meeting, and
Hmm.
those opportunities from and getting to connect with other leaders from other states
Mm.
and Bruce, I don't know if you know this, but Texas, we're doing pretty good. Like we're knocking it out of the park. And so that energizes me, right? Is to
Mm.
see and to know that we really are doing great at what we say we're going to do, which is supporting each other and elevating the profession. It's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
it's pretty special to be part of Texas SHRM and all of the 31 chapters across the state and just seeing all there's just something about it. You know, Roseanne Garza, our state director, she always talks about the importance of belonging. And I think that's what
Hmm.
everybody feels. They feel like they belong, not just to the chapter or Texas SHRM, but just to something bigger,
Something
to
bigger.
something of significance,
That's right.
meaningful, some of the things we talk.
Meaningfulness.
I love that. Okay, last question, Staci. Staci, 10 years older, is around the corner knocking at your door, and you're going to go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
She's going to tell you to go make a hair appointment. No, just continue to be the real you and
Yeah.
look for those opportunities and those people that can make a difference and connect with them and help them along their path.
Stacy, this has been so good. I appreciate you coming on, just sharing your wisdom, your perspective. Hey, if somebody heard something you shared today, or maybe they want to learn more about Texas SHRM or your organization, how is the best way for them to connect with you?
I am on LinkedIn. I
Mm.
am on that platform. I'm also on all the other social platforms as well, but LinkedIn is the better way to contact me.
Perfect. I will put that in the show notes as well. And if you're in Abilene and you get to the downtown convention center, stop by and see Stacy and tell her you heard her on Life in the Leadership Lane. She'll love it. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Thank
I
you, Bruce.
cannot wait to share this episode, and I appreciate your friendship so much.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you as well.
Awesome. Okay. I'll talk to you later.